各位观众朋友，大家好，欢迎收看我们美南电视。我们今天同样的由我跟 Jim Notway 来跟大家聊个天，讨论一下现在的时事。How you doing, Jim?
I'm fine. Nice to see you again, Jimmy.
Good seeing you. I know that it's been a eventful week, eventful month. And for you personally, you are a very busy man. So once again, thank you for being on the show to talk to our friends.
Good. Happy to do it. Anything to strengthen relationships.
Well, to strengthen relationships also means that we have to have our audience, with Chinese Americans or Chinese, understand the problems that's going on in our country. 我们想要有这个增进交流，两国跟两国的人民有互相的这个了解。那我们希望大家也要了解到在美国所发生的 social issues 这个社会上的问题与文化上的差异。What is your take on what's going on in Kenosha and Wisconsin the last few days?
Well, I think it's another very, very unfortunate situation when anyone is shot for any reason. And it's an unfortunate situation because for things that we don't understand, as they say, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know the circumstances that led to the shooting. We don't know all of the details of the shooting. The local police department has chosen not to distribute that information as yet. And I think it's unfortunate, and I have a little bit of, not an inside knowledge on this, but I have an inside knowledge on de-escalation and police training. My son runs a company that focuses on de-escalation of hostilities within police departments. And I'm happy to talk about all of that as well. But to answer your question, my observation from what little I know from watching things on television is that the police officer panicked. There was a bad situation there, and the police officer panicked. But before we make any conclusions, I think we have to understand the circumstances. For instance, there's a tremendous amount of new evidence coming out about what happened to George Floyd. And it changes the whole picture of the public understanding.
What kind of new information?
George Floyd was extremely high on fentanyl. George Floyd was gasping for breath in the police car before he got out of the car. I believe the medical examiner is going to conclude that he died of asphyxiation from the fentanyl. I don't know that yet, but what I do know and what I think is important for our discussion today is that the court system is very, very disciplined about the quality of evidence. And many, many things in criminal prosecutions and criminal trials are very sophisticated and intertwined. And it's very difficult to make judgments on insufficient information. So I think it's a terrible situation what happened. Before I make a judgment on what happened between the gentleman and the policeman, I want to wait for this. But the larger issue is the violence that erupted after that, I think is very, very unfortunate. And I side with the young man's mother who called for calm and asked people to respect the situation, respect her family, and respect the rights of others. It was a very moving interview that I saw on television 2 nights ago following the tragic shooting. So I don't understand all of the rush to violence, particularly the damage to property. Anybody is entitled, in my observation, to peaceful protesting. but to then go beyond peaceful protesting, whether it's the same people or different people, and engage in wholesale destruction of property and looting and destruction of businesses, that is criminal activity. And I am calling on law enforcement to stop that activity. I know I've said a lot in answer to your question very quickly.
I'm still processing what you're saying. Jim, it's been very difficult for me to talk about this issue because it's divided, right? Our country's divided. Asian Americans divided. We're all divided. As a human first, though, like you said, anytime a man is shot, murdered, or because the officers were self-defense, whatever it is, somebody was shot in front of 3 young children. What is disturbing is very hard for me because after the past few months, but what I do agree with you is what you said is true about criminal elements. Instead of peaceful protests, there will be, and there always will be, a small percentage of criminals breaking the law, right?
Yes.
But there are millions that are marching and protesting. It's a very small element, just like a small element of police officers that are murdering people. You're not the only person that I had this conversation with. Even people that are very close to me, my immediate family members, first thing they said is, he should have followed instructions. This won't happen to you or me, Jimmy Ma. This won't happen to you because you would have followed instructions. But you see, that alone right there, I can't accept that because the past few months we already had a lot of these social injustice to the forefront. This is not one case. This is not one issue, one incident. It's hundreds, thousands of incidents built up. Because of the prevalence of social media and cell phones, we're seeing it more. This gentleman in Kenosha, are we going to start thinking I'm saying he has a criminal record or he has drugs? At first they said that he has a weapon, but he doesn't. Based on the video itself, right? I don't understand if there's 3 officers, they could tase him, they could handcuff him, but they don't have a right to be executioner and judge and jury all at the same time. And of course, the argument is the officers want to go home too, right? They want to go home to their family. But Jim, they chose to be a cop. You can't choose to be white or black or Asian or Chinese. Your job doesn't entitle you. I mean, you're right. You hit it on the head. Undertrained. They need more training. Maybe we should have Junior come on the show to talk about what it takes because what he's doing is important. Let me process this. It's very hard for me. And how do I say this in Chinese?
Okay, yeah, go ahead, and then I'll give you another comment when you're finished.
观众们，这个议题对我来说很困难。我们身为少数民族，我们华人在这个议题上也是中间是等于是隔开的对立的。第一句话就可以讲说，在密瓦基在多少发生这个事情，意思就是说他罪有应得，因为他没有听警察的指令。但是各位，你看过我们过去这几个月多少几百几千个案子，你听话也一样会被谋杀，这是执法过度，执法不当。你身为黑人或中国人或白人，你是没有选择，是老天决定的。但是你做警察是你有选择的，这是一个职业而已。你可以说你训练不足。刚刚 Jim 很公平 ，Jim 讲的就是说他紧张。你有3个警察，你3把枪，你可以用电击他，你可以靠手铐，你3个人制服不了1个人。然后又人都被打了7枪从背后，然后又怪他说他有武器，最后证明没有武器。另外 Jim 刚刚提到一点，认为也是很忧心的，就是说当初这个 George Floyd 这个事情 ，George Floyd 后来这个验尸之后发现他身体里面有毒品，然后他的心脏不好。他心脏好跟不好跟有没有毒品，警察还是在他身上压了这么久。录影带是不会骗人的， 所以我不晓得为什么人与人之间能够最基本的这个对别的人类的同情心、同理心都没有了。Go ahead, Jim. What were you going to comment on?
Part of the de-escalation training and part of the problems that most policemen have, the first problem they have is they get very, very little training of any kind. If a young policeman going through what they call cadet school gets any training at all, it is training in marksmanship. In other words, how to shoot straight. It's not when to shoot, when not to shoot, what the alternatives are to shooting, or other use of force. They get almost none of that. And before I go on, that's why I am very much in favor of not defunding the police, but looking into the methods by which policemen are trained, the way they're deployed, the way they're evaluated, and when things go wrong, the way that they're reviewed and judged. That is a whole subject all by itself, but in almost every city across the country, they call it the blue wall. The police are insulated from normal methods of accountability. I think that is a huge mistake. Okay, so number one, they need better training. Number two, the whole concept of training is what to do in situations that are strange to you. I would bet that this policeman, that was the first time, even though he's been a policeman on active duty for 7 years, I'll bet that was one of the very first time that he was put in a situation like this.
Where he had to shoot someone in the back 7 times, right?
I said to you at the beginning of this conversation, my quick read of it is he panicked. And part of the reason for training is to make you feel comfortable in situations because you've seen it before and you know how to react. Most reactions are instinct. If you panic, you lose control, okay? And the quick conclusion is you will reach for deadly force because you want to stop the problem. That isn't necessarily the right thing to do.
Jim, let's be frank. We're both supporters of law and order.
Mm-hmm.
We could be supportive of police reform and still support our law enforcement officers. Let's be frank.
Of course.
It's not opposite ends. You don't have to be a protester or want to defund the police, and it's not opposite. We're all, as Americans.
It's not black and white. It's not polarized.
It needs to be inclusive. Like we all can work on it. Jim, thank you. What you just said is probably one of the most fair comments that I've heard coming from a lifelong conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is not about politics, whether you're right or left, or you are Trump supporter or a progressive. It's not tied in. You don't have to be let's say a white supremacist or a gun control. Hi, baby. Hey, okay, I'm taping right now, please. Baby, I'm taping right now, okay? I love you. I'm sorry.
No, Jimmy, that's fine because...
Guys, I'm taping live, please. I cannot stop this. Maynard, 快点啦 Maynard 好，出去不可以 Thank you, Sophie. Close my door.
But Jimmy, they are the future.
They are. That's what I'm upset.
They are what we're working for.
Thank you. I always say that. This door cannot be locked because, you know, I before the pandemic, we worked in office. Working at home is my wife has office. I have one. I take in this room. It's a mess. And, you know, I have school, Oregon holiday.
Yeah. Now we're all juggling multiple priorities, which actually makes emotions and decisions all that more difficult.
I think we want to be fair. You're right. We call for compassion and empathy for the victims of police violence.
Right.
You're showing compassion, empathy, understanding to the officers under the gun. Right. Look, my friends that are officers, mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what race they are.
No.
They have a code of silence, though.
Mm-hmm.
They do believe they're constantly under attack. Look, I am in no way supporting any criminal acts. Mm-hmm. Officers are under constant stress. Mm-hmm. At any moment, they could be shot. Mm-hmm. We have a gun problem in the United States. We have a drug problem in the United States. Mm-hmm. But that, to me, is separate from the issue of racial injustice.
Yes. Yes.
Looking at the video, no matter what the cause is, what you point out is true. They need training. They're nervous. But the result is black men are being shot at. George Floyd, my personal opinion, I don't care if he has drugs, he's high. I don't care what is. The video shows clearly he was choked and set on. Mm-hmm. For how long? Mm-hmm. I think it's very sad that this man has passed away, mm-hmm. and certain fractions come out and justify and gaslight by finding excuses. So because he was on drugs, he deserved to be murdered. Mm-hmm. If I had a cold and took some Tylenol and flu, and I happened to run the officers, some overzealous officers, and they choked me to death, it's my fault. It's character assassination. It strikes fear in me. I don't think these protesters are asking for anything that we all would. Now I know how the Jews felt during Nazi occupation, how the Chinese people felt during the Japanese imperialist occupation. Mm-hmm. I really do feel that way. But you're right. It starts with more training. It starts with more empathy and not having a code of silence, right?
Right. And the opposite of the code of silence is transparency. We need more transparency.
Thank you. Thank
you. On all sides, we need more tolerance.
Accountability, transparency, and tolerance. 我们都要担待互相，我们要有这个 transparency， 要透明化，制度要透明化。But you see, having transparency is very hard because I get it. When you put on a uniform, whether you're in the military or the police, you have this band of brothers mentality. You protect your own, right? Even if they're wrong. And the public, of course, give officers excuse, which I understand why. You cannot get sued by every little thing when you're enforcing the law, right?
Right.
I get it. But it's also because of this culture that's accepted by the majority of Americans that has caused this. Now, I'm going to pivot really quick because we can talk about this for
just one thing. One thing before you do.
Yeah.
All municipal and almost all government employees are immune from lawsuits.
Yes, I knew that.
For their behavior. And there is a technical legal term, and I wish I could remember it, but it's the concept that's important. Some people are trying to erode that now because it's an overreaction for the absence of transparency. And so what I don't want to do is throw the baby out with the bathwater by oscillating too far.
I completely understand what you mean because the two extremes, right? We have to meet in the middle. That's what this country is made of. Mm-hmm. We have to compromise each other. We cannot let it swing too far, right?
And the best form of compromise, let me just mention, and then I'll let you go on. The best form of compromise is understanding. If we understand each other and we understand what the facts are, then we'll have a much better chance of resolving conflicts.
But isn't that what the NBA players have been saying? They walked out and boycotted the game for the first time in history. And I'm a huge sports fan. And I support them. I feel so bad because people would say they're professionals, they get a paycheck. What they're saying is they tried peaceful protesting. They tried putting words on their shirts, but nothing has changed. The officer is still not charged. There is no more training. Some kid went out there with an assault rifle and murdered protesters, while the cops just let him go. They finally arrested him today. But I mean, I know this is very sensitive because I don't want to be, Jim, how do I say this? The original sin. Oh, you're white, so you won't understand. I can't stand that argument. I can say this, by the way, I'm a minority. I can't stand it. You're not black, so you don't understand how it feels. yes, we don't understand, but we still, if once you pin that argument on someone, then it's over. There's no more discussion.
Right.
You cannot assume every person that is not a minority is racist or white supremacist. That's not true. That's a very small percentage.
Right. I don't know. I saw the news last night where the Milwaukee Bucks initiated a boycott, and other teams followed, and the league decided to suspend play for at least yesterday, maybe going forward. I really don't know. All I know on this is what I've seen on television. I think everybody ought to get to the bottom of it. Maybe this boycott and the protest will be a catalyst that will lead to open dialogue and understanding. I hope it does.
I really, really love your open-mindedness about this. I really do.
Yeah.
Because the majority of Americans don't. They'll say, they're not doing anything different. They're just taking away my right to watch the games, enjoy it. And they're just players. They're just gladiators during Rome in the Colosseum, where they're paid to provide entertainment. These players are saying, how could you make me play a game when people in my hometown are being murdered and there's nothing to do about it? I've tried peaceful protests. I've tried everything you told me to, and nothing has changed. I appreciate your open-mindedness. Thank you. Maybe it'll change. So I'll give you a quick update.
Maybe it will. I don't know. I do hope.
But they have to do something. And they did.
Yeah. And if they're going to boycott and protest, it's going to take time. They can't just go back 2 days from now and say, oh, I protested, and go back. And they're going to have to put their money where their mouth is. They won't get paid.
Oh, no, they won't. This is why I respect them.
They have huge amounts of money at risk. And we will see how this all evolves.
Perfect. That's exactly my point. This has never been done in North American professional sports because these players are employees.
Yeah.
They're a huge business now. Yeah. Even the players that get paid the least, a few $1 million, to the people that's being paid $100 million, they have a whole business around them. Their managers, trainers, family, business associates that depend on them. And the owners and the board of governors, this is a huge business.
It's a huge business.
And
obviously, it relates to China as well. Let me tell you just quickly a story, and then we may be running out of time. I'm sensitive to that. One of my heroes in life is a former baseball player named Curt Flood. Do you remember who Curt Flood was? Curt Flood was a player, an outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals in the 1960s and 70s. Curt Flood decided to sit out a season in the prime of his career, and he basically challenged the owner's rights in baseball over the players, and he established free agency. It totally changed the whole structure of the game of baseball. And all these young players, not only in baseball, but football and basketball and the other sports, now enjoy free agency. In other words, the players became free to sell their services to the highest bidder at expiration of their contracts. Curt Flood was a real hero. I got to know him late in life, and he asked me to be on his board of advisors for the Curt Flood Institute. I accepted, but unfortunately, a few weeks before our initial meeting, he passed away. And it was about 10 years ago. But I invite you, and I invite any of your listeners that are serious about professional sports, that it is a business, and it's a business of people. It's not just gladiators, it's people. And all the things that people bring to the game. But Curt Flood, in my opinion, is one of the single most important people in all of Major League Sports.
I love this example. I love the fact you actually know him. I hope our viewers will look him up, because he is a hero, because he put his own livelihood on the line. That's how the United States is the greatest country in the world, because we have people that are willing to make changes. There is no change unless there's sacrifice. And whether it's civil rights to players' rights to what's going on now. Jim, like I said, is with a very heavy heart that I'm taping. It is very hard for me because see the kids. I don't know how to explain it to them. This is not how we grew up. It's not supposed to be like this.
Well, it's akin to what some of the players did yesterday or the day before is akin to Martin Luther King and others marching. They suspended their life. They challenged in a peaceful way. They challenged the established order and dictates, and they worked peacefully and with high integrity. They didn't compromise themselves. They held to their ideals.
I love that. I love that. You were able to express the emotions. I feel better than I can. I want to shout out to the NBA on TNT, Inside the NBA crew, Kenny Smith, Shaq O'Neal, Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, and to Doc Rivers, the Clippers head coach, to all the players, LeBron, they're using the platform to speak out, that are not condoning violence, but like you said, to use what they can, put their life on the line, their livelihood on the line at stake, to stand up for something they believe in. Hopefully we will see change. I'm happy that we have the same goal. We might look at it differently. We might come from different political beliefs, but the goal is the same. And if the majority of Americans could do this, we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't be divided and have hate. Jim, you really made my day better because it was been very hard for me. It's hard to, what's going on? It's hard. I'm a huge NBA fan. It's hard to watch the videos of people being shot, whether it's by law enforcement or vigilantes, or seeing stores and business burned down.
Right.
Family business burned down for nothing. Innocent business owners being beamed. I see videos of it recently, being beamed, being assaulted, women, men. That is not right. When it's a crime, it is a crime.
You're 100% right. 100%.
But this is not this country. This country is not supposed to be like this. Let's all hope for better change. And I hope you have a safe flight, bon voyage, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, Jimmy. Thank you very much.
谢谢.
And I assume you're going to translate this last segment.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I know you got to go. Why don't you go ahead? I know you're running late.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll translate the last part.
Okay.
Got
Perfect.
it?
Thank you.
Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Jimmy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jim 他现在要上飞机，赶着坐飞机走。他在上飞机前百忙的还帮我们先录一段，因为我们这个过去这几天所发生的这个事情是令人很忧心，也让感触很深。会讲这个时候其实很尴尬，因为我们是很热情的球迷。我看火箭队看了很多年，我们从小一起长大的，看的火箭队，所以看到这个篮球能够被杯葛，这些球员决定不打，我们是很佩服他们的，为了这个不公义的事情。那我们再次要重申，我们支持警察，支持执法人员，但是我们也希望要有更好的训练，能够避免这种遗憾的事情发生。人命关天，不管你是什么种族、什么肤色，每一条性命都很重要。再次谢谢各位收看我们的节目，我们下礼拜四再见。忘了跟大家讲，我们大家收视的观众，希望大家都平安。我们这个台风运气很好，没有到我们，但是我们以东的这个 Lake Charles，路易斯安那州很多人需要帮助。那边其实有很多我们华人的居民，因为那边有华人盖的这个化工厂，Westlake Chemical 在那边有厂。我们在这里为他们祈福，希望大家都平安度过。再次谢谢各位，拜拜。